Hello everyone, Alex the RC Freak here, coming at you with another video. Sorry I haven't made a video in a while. I messed up my wrist. I got tendonitis pretty bad in it. I don't have the brace on right now just for video purposes, to try to, show you guys so it's not some big old ugly thing that you guys have to see. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. Sorry my voice is a little weird. I feel like I'm getting sick. But keep this video going for you. So basically, I want to have a little talk about charger battery leads. So custom making battery leads for your charger. If you were to change your connector and you don't want to go buy leads, you want to make your own. Because if you notice, this gauge, this wire gauge, says 1 on it, -1. So it looks like it's probably like 15 to 18 gauge. Wire, the higher the number, the smaller the actual diameter of the wire is. This is 12 gauge wire. So basically the actual wire inside here, the diameter of the wire inside here is 12 gauge. It's a lot bigger than 18. So that's one thing I don't like. This is a pre-made one. They would come with a charger if you were to buy one brand new. This is what they look like. This is the Traxxas male plug, old style on there. The one I was running Traxxas for a while, and then I quit using Traxxas just because these tabs get worn sometimes and they'll pop out of the housings. And you could get a new connector and do that way too. But I'm switching to XT90. So what I'm doing is I'm soldering up some XT90 connectors right now. So that way, this is a female connector which goes on your battery. So female meaning that the bullets, I'm going to use a piece of solder to kind of point to it, but these bullets, they go inside. So this is a female side. Now, I've already made a couple leads up. I've been working on it. They look very nice, and these are very high quality leads. Now, just stay with me here. The better quality your wire is, the better it's going to charge and send that signal to the battery and stuff, to charge your battery, to put it in storage charge, to do battery maintenance, to balance the battery. And so this is the ones that I've made. I feel that they turned out very nice. And this is a male plug-in also right here, if you didn't know. So the male end always goes on the speed control, and the battery charging leads, the female ends, always go on the batteries. So, or if you make adapters, you can make adapters too, using females and stuff to plug into the males if you have an ESC that you don't want to do like a series connector or a parallel connector, for example. Let me just talk to you a little bit about soldering. It's extremely important to get a good quality rosin core solder. This is rosin core solder. I just cut it in strips about 5 to 6 inches. I already soldered this bullet connector. Now on these ends, you will need 4.5 millimeter bullet connectors. So these are special charging lead ones. Your local hobby shop should have these in stock. Mine did. I got a couple of them. I always usually keep them in stock. So here's one right here. If you didn't know. But yeah, so basically this little part right here will squish down, and so it's a nice tight fit, and you have to solder it. So I already soldered this one. I just got to heat shrink it. So basically what I did is I cut these wires. I'm guessing they're about 4-5 inches long, which is a perfect size. So basically, you're going to need some heat shrink. Now, this is 1/4 inch in diameter. This one's probably a little smaller than that. It's just some stuff I had lying around. But this is about 1/4 inch in diameter. So, it's really good quality heat shrink. And that's another thing. Don't be a cheap ass and get cheap heat shrink. Get quality heat shrink. It really does pay off. And you don't need a whole lot. You just cut off a little section like that. I've already soldered this on. I'm going to show you how to solder this on. But you just stick the heat shrink on here like so. So you just stick it on there like that. Just like that. And please forgive me for my voice. It's just, I've been going through hell lately. So anyway, so basically you just heat shrink it on, and you kind of want to go all the way around the wire. Make sure you don't try to catch it on fire or anything, or melt the heat shrink, but make sure you get it nice and shrinked, and you can lightly touch it with your fingers. Now, if you're sensitive to heat, I do not recommend doing that, because some people, depending on your hands, you're sensitive to heat. So you can lightly touch if it doesn't really bug you. So, just to say that as a disclaimer. Now, I do strongly recommend you wear safety goggles. I'm not going to do that today because I'm doing it for video purposes. So I can get the best view. Yeah, so, anyway. But, yeah, so, you got this all soldered on there. What I like to do is take another piece of heat shrink, because you're going to need it for the connector side, and just cut a little piece of it. And then you're also going to need to cut some of the red also. So, I'm going to cut some red right now. Let's get it out of the way. Cut two little strips of it. Alright, and then set that aside. Okay, I'm swapping all my rigs. This is just charging leads. I need to make charging leads for this. So, we're going to go over how to solder. Now, hopefully you can see this very well. I hope. And this is a Flux Paste. So, is what this stuff is. It's a little paste. You just dip it in the wire. And I'm going to show you how to use it here. Now, depending on what I'm doing, I do not like to use it. And some people say you should use it hands down no matter what. Let me explain real quick. So, when you use this stuff, if you cake it on the wire, it leaves a, like with, for example, rosin core solder, if you actually have good rosin core solder, actual high quality solder. Now, this is the wire inside here, what makes contact, what you're going to be soldering. So, you just twist it. I like to go clockwise when you twist it, just so the wire stays nice and tight. But also, if you when you dump this stuff, you just take it, dip it in there, just the tip. You don't need to. You can do it all the way; it won't hurt anything. But this stuff sometimes will leave a residue after it's done soldering, and it'll kind of go down the side of the insulation here, and it kind of hardens up. So that's the only thing I don't like. So, but it's not a problem. So basically, what you do is you just stick this wire here. I'm going to show you how to solder it real quick and get this stuff out of the way. Sorry about my area being a little bit of a mess here. Please forgive me. I am not perfect in any sort of way. But alright, let's get this part started. So, gonna take this. Now, you kind of want to straighten out your heat shrink, or your solder. I apologize for that. So, hopefully you guys can see this. I'm going to try to get this where you guys can see it. Now, when you're doing this, you just tap Pretent. This is called pretenting your wire. Now, see that red stuff? It gets basically eaten away. Now, this is a 25 watt soldering iron. You don't need to go gun-ho. I got 260 watt soldering iron if I need to step it up a notch. But that's a bit hot for the 12 gauge wire. So, just pretent the wire. You don't need to go crazy gung-ho, get a giant clump of solder on there. You can do a little bit more if you're not happy with that. And then call it good. And always flick off the tip. Flick the tip. It'll keep the solder, so that way it will not, you know, bulk up on the tip, and then you have problems soldering, or it gets really clumpy. So you want to try to keep your solder nice and clean and flowing. So please forgive me if there's smoke in the way when I'm soldering. I'm trying to do this with the best view for you guys. So, and always, thank you so much for anyone and everyone who's subscribed to my channel, liked my videos, commented on my videos. I greatly appreciate it very much. I try to get back to all of them as best as I can. Like I say, I'm one person, I'm not perfect. But I genuinely do try my best to get to all of them. Now, you just need a little bit in here. Because there's a little hole on the side of this. There's a hole right there. On the side, right in about the middle, there's a hole. And you can stick solder in the side of the bullet if you want to do that. But you just do a little bit of the solder, and then you grab your wire here. So you already got your wire pre-tinned, right? So the wire's pre-tinned. You got your soldering iron. This is 25 watt. Nothing fancy. This is cheapo soldering iron. I'm going to clean this tip real quick. Okay, so let's get this party started. So you always want to keep a clean tip. It's extremely important. So what you want to do is you want to heat it up, alright? You want to stick the wire in there. Heat it up. Let it kind of get hot. Stick it in there. There you go. Just like that. Beautiful. And then take the heat off. Hold the wire straight. Disclaimer. This wire may be hot, depending on the amperage or the wattage of the soldering iron you are currently using. So this wire may be hot. That's why you want to hold it up towards the top. You don't have to hold it forever, just a few seconds, and the wire's in there and it feels nice and tight. So Extremely important. It's nice to have a set of helping hands. I purchased these from Harbor Freight. I got 1 1/4 inch pounds weights here, and that's what I use to hold it down on the table so it's not so tippy. And I put fuel tubing on this end so that way it will help protect wires. So when you grab on to the side of a wire, it'll help protect the wire without having these teeth here on this end damage your insulation on your wire. Just a little tech tip for anyone who may be wondering. But basically, yeah, you just let that, you grab your heat shrink, stick it on here like so, line it up with the edge. Extremely simple to do. Make sure you get it straight on there. And then you just take it and you just heat shrink it all the way across. Yeah, there's not much to it, you know, so it's pretty easy soldering these, you know, connectors, these charging leads. And the nice thing about these charging leads is that they're high quality charging leads. They're not some cheapo charging lead. They're a good, high quality charging lead. So, now, I strongly recommend, this is an X-Acto knife with a number 2 blade, sharp number 2 blade. I always keep brand new ones on hand. This is how I personally like to strip my wires. Now keep in mind, I also have a fancy wire stripper, which I do recommend. This will help strip your wires. If you press it, it'll pull them apart. I like using that too, but I like, for me, I don't know why, with the RC industry and my hobby, I do personally like to do it with an X-Acto knife. So what you do is you just roll it, just like so, just like that. Take it, peel it off. And you need to do that to this wire also. So you just take it, twist the wire. That's all you need to do is just twist the wire. You don't need to put a lot of pressure. If you have a sharp blade, you should always keep a sharp blade. That should be hand in hand. Seriously, always make sure you stick your X-Acto knife in its protective case. It's very important. I've stabbed myself in the finger with that because I didn't do that. I failed to do so. So I'm seriously, just do that. It's way better to protect yourself. So what I'm going to do is got some of this paste here. Dip the wire in there. Dip the wire in there. Alright, so now we can pre-tin these. It won't take long at all. Get a little piece of solder here. Pre-tin your solder. Now it's always good to make sure your tip's in good shape. If your soldering iron tip is in bad shape or it's getting worn, you may want to strongly you're looking to get purchasing a new tip. And they're fairly cheap. They're about $5 to $10. Now it may take a couple seconds for the wire to heat up enough to get the solder on there. But like I say, seriously, make sure to flick your sorry, and just set that solder aside. Grab your long solder. You don't want to do short because you could burn your fingers if you get this too short and you're grabbing a little tiny bit of solder. That's why it's good to just get a big roll of it. So we're going to do this side. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm going to burn some solder on the tip of that. Hold it. Burn some solder on the tip. Burn it into the wire. And you could touch the solder on the, there you go. Just like that. And then let's do that a couple times. And then once that stuff finally, you know, melts in there, should look good. Yeah. So anyway, that's basically how you tin the wires. This is called pre-tinning the wires. Extremely important. Now, here's the connector. I'm going to try to get this the best view I can for you. So anyway, this is the plug-in right here. Now you want to make sure the male end. So this is the female end. So stick them together loosely, not all the way. Have a little bit of gap. Have a little bit of gap right there. So that way these connectors stick it together. Have that gap there, and that way the heat will transfer from this brass bullet connector to this brass female bullet connector. So it'll help kind of bring it on through. So if you do one, you could melt this this plastic housing, I guess you could say. So the connector part. So not good. You do not want to do that. Trust me. I haven't did that with these. These seem to be pretty good. Some connectors are really finicky in that sense, so I am not going to use that paste on this. Just because it kind of, to me, it seems like it has a little bit of issue soldering, but I have used the paste on a solder before, and it did okay, but just not something I like doing. So, you want to make sure your joint's good and hot so that solder flows like a river. So I'm trying to do this with you guys getting a good view. Now you want to make sure not to clop up too much solder, because if you do, it may not get. And now note, this is the negative side with this tapered barn house roof style on the end. It's negative, and I'll show a little negative on each corner here. The other side with the square 90 degree end cap, this is positive, that's positive, that's positive, that's negative. So just make sure that you get that right. And then also, you'll need a pliers. Take these tabs and just turn them like that, just a little bit, so they're out. These are facing out. So it is really recommended. So anyway, let's get this soldered up here. And this is negative. I got my black. Black is negative. So basically what you can do is you stick your tip of your soldering iron in there just to get the solder all kind of melted and all back there and stuff. So, and then you can take it and then just kind of heat it up. I'm going to take my little thing here, set that on here so that way it doesn't move around on me like it was doing. Now, the nice thing about having this small soldering iron tip, it's not like, this tip is not very wide, so it kind of makes it nice because you can really kind of fine tune it because it's a flat tip, and you can really kind of fine tune your soldering job with that sometimes on smaller and more intricate soldering type situations. Now I'm trying to do this so you guys can see what I'm doing. Now I'm just kind of bringing the solder and bringing a nice crown around there, so that way it'll have a nice, good solder joint. But, yeah, that's... Let me hold on here. Alright, sorry about that. Just had to clean my soldering iron a little bit. But, anyway, so basically, you got your solder here. You're going to want to take your heat shrink. Now, this is a perfect example. See how bigger, a little bit bigger this heat shrink is? It slides right over very easily. See how this one, kind of, it slides over, but it's a little bit snug? So, I'm just saying, make sure you put the heat shrink on. This one, it doesn't matter because it is big enough to shrink down. So, just take your heat shrink. Stick it on over. Grab your lighter. Now have this flame on a low setting here, so that way you don't overdo it, because you definitely don't want to melt your heat shrink, because you're going backwards if you're doing that. This lighter seems to be being kind of a pain in the rear, so... Alright, so once you got it all soldered, you just lightly, I like to do this, lightly touch it, and bam, you got the negative side done. So, and then also a quick note, this vice grips here, with this little notch down in here, that's why I like this, because the contact area is right here for these connectors, and then it dips down and dips down. So, I really do like that. So that's just something to note. That's just personal preference thing. It may not work for everyone, but it's kind of nice to have vice grips, because that way you can hold it and you can have this little weight thing hold it so it won't move around on you. Now let's get started with this other one here. Let me cut some more solder here. I'll probably have enough in that one. Yeah, let me try it. I may not have enough, so bear with me, please. Doing the best I can. So, alright, anyway. Pretent your solder. Iron. And then, there you go. Start soldering it up. Alright, so you got your wire here. Take your wire, heat up your solder real good. Take this solder. Sorry if my hands are in the way, I apologize for that. You can use pliers for this too. I personally like to use my hands as much as I can. There you go. You want to make sure you get it full engagement all the way. There you go. Then let it cool. That's, you know, just let it cool. Man, that easy. Slide it on in the wire, so that way you make sure the wire goes all the way up the bullet connector side, and that way you get a nice good solder. So it is very important. Sorry about that smoke being in the way there. I know sometimes that may affect the camera, but yeah, basically that's all you need to do. You just take this off just like that. And then it's literally that easy. So, yeah, and that's the soldering job. But to do it, and then you just take your heat shrink and you stick the heat shrink on there and solder it. Let me just, ooh, that's still hot. Hold on here. All right. Sorry about that, I was just making it a little bit prettier on one edge. But, let me actually just finish up this little end corner. I'm just that paranoid to where, and some people are like, it's charging leads, it doesn't matter. It does matter. Having a good soldering job is extremely important. You don't want that, a bad soldering job that could break or short out on you, or who knows. If these touch while they're charging, let's just say it probably wouldn't be a pretty sight, okay, to say the least. So I don't want to have that happen to anybody, you know, because I love this hobby. A lot of other people love this hobby. I know they do. So you don't want to have that happen. Don't have LiPo fires. And whenever you charge a LiPo battery, always use a LiPo safe charging bag and put your LiPo in there. It's extremely important. So a lot of the things where you hear people, you know, houses catch on fire, all that stuff, it's because they leave the battery unattended and then they don't charge the battery in a LiPo bag. It's extremely important to use a LiPo bag. Let me just say that straight out, right out of the bat, whenever you are charging LiPos, because these are charging leads. That's just something you may want to think about. But as always, thank you for watching the video. It is greatly appreciated. And please like, comment, subscribe if you like what I'm doing. You know, if you feel free to message me anytime, any day, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I possibly can. So as always, keep the RCing going awesome. But yeah, these are the charging leads, so just that easy. So bam. Let's see, the nice thing about having these together is you can it doesn't melt the connector on the inside. So these pins stay nice and perfectly, you know, in there. So, yeah. Alright. Alex RC Freak out. Peace.